Hey, Orion here. I've been podcasting for over 4 years now. 4 years. I started a bit unsure and insecure, but I am so much better and I'm a different woman today. I learned and grew so much. I grew as a person and I grew as a podcast host. And I had the privilege of talking with incredible people I never even imagined I can even reach. But regardless of how famous or not famous my guest is, sometimes you have a special conversation. One that is so stellar, you remember it even 4 years later. Welcome to Stellar Conversations. This is one of my absolute favorite episodes, and it will light up your day.
Welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Get inspired and live out loud. From love, freedom, and success to having it all. Here's your host, coach, speaker, and shining star, Orion.
Roger, you're looking good.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. I'm your host, Orion. Our guest today is Alison Armstrong. Allison is a world-renowned expert on male and female masculine-feminine dynamics. She is a sought-after speaker in the area of gender differences, well-being, empowerment, sexuality, and relationships. Allison will teach you how to understand men. She will teach you how to understand women. And she will teach you how to own everything that you are so you can find love again. And now, on to the show.
2, 1, 0.
So hello, Queen Goddess Allison, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Queen Goddess. Wow.
Yes, you are. Yes. My first question is, what is the most astonishing discovery you made about men and women and the way they connect?
Oh my gosh. Out of 26 years, I have to pick the most astonishing in 26 years of astonishment. Oh, golly.
You don't have to do anything.
Okay, well, let's see. Can I have more than one?
Mm-hmm.
All right. If I can have more than one, then I can do it. Because this reminds me of the panels in our workshops. If we ask them, what are your 3 favorite things about women?
Mm-hmm.
They're so literal that they actually will sit there in front of a whole room of women and go, is it that? I don't know if that's top 3. Well, what if it, I don't know if that, well, maybe, I don't know. Well, I don't know if that, well, and we're just like, just tell us, forget the top 3. We don't care. Just tell us everything you love about it. So I think that's one of my astonishments is that men they are literal and they take our questions seriously and they commit to answering the question we asked. And they'll even think about the answer and really think about it. And they don't know that a woman didn't really want the answer. Like when she says, why haven't you taken out the trash yet? What she wants is for him to jump off the couch and take out the trash.
Exactly.
Right? And instead he's thinking, why haven't I taken out the trash yet? I said I would take out the trash. I'm a man of my word. Why haven't I done it yet? Oh, well, that thing happened. And then the other thing happened. And oh, yeah. And then he's, now he knows the answer to the question and he's about to tell her. And she's already dragging the trash out to the curb, while complaining and whatever. And he has no idea what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
So that would definitely be on the astonishment list, how literal they are and that they commit to the answer to our questions, and that commitment and the thinking about the real answer has them take so long to answer that we think they either didn't understand the question or they're blowing us off.
Mm-hmm.
Just that one thing could save so many lives. just knowing that.
Yeah, thank you. So you say that
we see men as a hairy, misbehaving woman.
Yes.
So can you share a little more about the way we interact?
Well, I've been doing a lot of work on this at a deeper level lately. And it's the whole realm that would be fairly called expectations, except for that word is overused and it stopped meaning anything. And if people could just become aware of how many times their mind thinks that something should already be a certain way, it should already be happening, it should already have been done, they should have said a particular thing, they should have responded a particular way, and that on top of that, it's owed to us.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't have to do anything else to get it. It just should be. I should not have to call the front desk for towels when I check into a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't have to. And we apply the same thing to interacting with men, and men do it with women as well. There are things that we are so certain that they should be that way. It's just true that it should be that way. And it's invisible to us when it is the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It's just invisible. And it just appears when it's not the way it should be. And we're upset and we're angry and we feel ripped off. And there's just things that any decent person would know to do. And we don't know that all those shoulds are based upon what I call an idealized woman or a perfect woman. And men don't know that they project onto us what's obvious to them. So we both just think it's obvious how a person should be, and that the other person is not being how they should be on purpose. They know how they should be, but they're misbehaving, they're acting up, or they're lazy, which is another kind of misbehavior, or they're stupid, or they're clueless. And we take it all very personally. And mostly women get their feelings hurt because if you loved me more, you would have done what I would have done. And men, oh my gosh, men, their experiences of being disrespected.
Okay.
And they are so mad. They are so mad. And we're so hurt and then mad. And then they're mad. And it just goes down the toilet, all because no one thought to actually state the obvious, because human instinct says save your energy or you'll die, and don't waste any energy stating the obvious. And to us, everything that should be is obvious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and men don't like to report as much as women anyways. So their communication on their side, I think, is even more difficult to handle.
Well, it's stronger than don't like to. It is something that's good to understand, because that makes it sound like it's a preference. Their entire system is shut. It's not shut down isn't a good word either. Their entire system is pulling in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
To them, wasting that energy, they feel tired just thinking about doing that. To them, they shouldn't have to do that. How are you? Fine. Well, but really, how are you? Fine. Like, don't make me spend any energy elaborating on fine. Well, what happened at the meeting? They bought it. But what else? What else matters?
That sounds so familiar. This conversation sounds really familiar.
Yeah. And to them, they don't know that it's just basic human hunter instinct to conserve their energy, and that they see no value in providing more conversation. And that's one of the biggest problems that both men and women have, is when we stop thinking it's obvious and we take the time to tell our partners why it's worth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they make the effort, to show them in very tangible ways that it was worth the effort.
That's a big one. That it goes back to entitlement. You make a request, and then they will obey. But if you're not grateful, if you're not showing love and respect, then they won't do it again.
I love that you use the word obey, because I don't know where you're from. Where is your accent from?
Israel.
Okay.
Obey. I like the word obey too.
I love that you used it because it's so honest. And very few American women would ever confess that, or men, that we expect to be obeyed. We're much too, enlightened for that. But you're right. Like, I should say what it is I want, and you should obey. And when you obey, now the only thing you get out of that is now you don't deserve to be punished.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right. You don't deserve to be appreciated. You just
No.
People should be appreciated for going above and beyond. They shouldn't be appreciated for doing what they should do.
This is a friendly reminder for you to visit www.stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes and information about this awesome show. Check out our Facebook group, Stellar Life. Sorry, boys, this is for women only. And get all information, including a checklist full of tips from the show at www.stellarlifepodcast.com. And if you're enjoying yourself, please subscribe and review. And now, back to the show.
In my relationship, I find out that the more I am grateful, the more I appreciate, the more I get. It's like, I feel like my man wants to love me and he wants to do everything for me. You were talking, I was listening to some of your interviews, and you were talking about partnership, and partnership from the word part. What is your part? And our part in the relationship is to be respectful, to appreciate, to celebrate what they do for us, right?
Well, it's also their part.
Yeah.
The way we like to look at it, and I love that you brought up partnership because, as you know, that is my passion. And we look at partnership as providers and receivers. And that in all different parts of life, someone's providing and someone's receiving. And that it's the receiver's part to provide clarity about what really matters to them and to provide acknowledgement of that need being met and to provide appreciation for everything that the provider spent in order to provide that, and even the things that they gave up in order to provide that. And it's the same no matter the gender. In our course for men, we teach men, oh man, it's a funny conversation, Orion. The look on their face when they realize that they've actually been training the women in their life to offer less and less and give less and less.
Wow.
That woman that they married that was so wonderful, they've actually taught her to do less and less for him. When they realize they did that, their faces are priceless. And it's because no one taught them either that their part is to provide clarity, which means you're going to have to spell out the obvious, dear. You're going to actually have to say what you mean by that and not just think, well, I said be direct. Everybody knows what that means. Well, honey, if women knew how to be direct, they already would be. And that then you have, not only do you have to provide clarity, but then you have to provide appreciation. And the worst thing is you have to provide appreciation in what we call the other person's currency. So most people appreciate in the currency that they like to be appreciated in.
Right.
Instead of the one that the other person has them feel appreciated. Oh my gosh, it's just, can I tell you this other thing that would help people really hang on to this? Can I do it?
Yes, please.
So I finally articulated this very recently when filming the Queen's Code course that's going online, right? And I've never articulated it so clearly before, so I'm just beside myself. And I call it the worth it calculation. And one of the things that women don't know about men and men don't know about women is that part of human instinct is to almost constantly be calculating whether or not something is worth it. And in that calculation is the value of the result, the value of the outcome, right? So let's say this is worth 10, right? Minus how much money and energy and time it would take me to provide that, minus everything I'd have to give up to provide that, right? So what I wouldn't be spending my money and energy and time on to provide that. And what people don't know is that, like, let's say you have a 10 minus 3 minus 1. So you have a positive 7, right? So you could have a result that's a positive 7 or a positive 70 or a positive 700 or a positive 7,000. And the bigger that result is, the more a person will generate that action without being asked.
Wow.
Yeah. And another thing that people don't know is that if it's a small result or if it's a 0, to a man, coming out even, meaning I'm not in trouble, but I don't get any benefit, to a man that isn't worth doing. He would actually consider it dishonorable to provide something in order to not be in trouble. You should ask Stefan about this. And to a woman, we have such an instinct to be pleasing to anyone that we depend upon and to avoid being displeasing, that a 0 is worth doing to us. Our instincts will have a 0 be worth doing, even though we're barely surviving, we're not thriving. And so we expect men to do things just to not be in trouble with us. And if a man does that, he emasculates himself and he's ashamed of himself.
That's horrible.
Oh, yes. Yes. And so that piece people don't know. And then the other thing that they don't know is that the value of the result, it isn't just factual. It's not static. It's the value of that result. Like, okay, let's say the result is that the piano has no dust on it, right? So for a half a day, because how fast dust shows up again. So for a whole day, maybe the piano won't have any dust on it. That has almost no value in itself. But if the piano has no dust on it and his wife will be happy that it has no dust on it, and she'll show her happiness to him, she'll smile at him and beam at him how happy she is to have a dustless piano and that he provides that. Well, now that nothingness, that's like 700 points.
Right.
So that thing you said about being grateful, grateful is part of the value of the result. The appreciation, the gratitude is part of the value of the result. And it's the only way things that are meaningless to men become worth it to them to do for women.
Wow. So, Allison, what are the different ways to find and to speak our partner's love language?
Well, you have to separate love languages and currencies of appreciation. And I think they have a relationship to each other. And Gary Smalley's work on the 5 love languages, I think, is beautiful. It's contributed a lot to me, especially in my relationship with my children, to find out when they were teenagers what their love language was. Totally changed my relationship with my son because I had it backwards. And a lot of people are familiar with his work, right? So acts of service, words of encouragement, quality time, physical affection,
gifts.
Yes, that's one of my weakest. So it actually is my weakness. So of course I would not think of that.
Yeah, so your love language is gifts?
No, it's not.
Okay. What's yours?
Mine would start with quality time and affection and acts of service, specifically what occurs as support.
Mm-hmm.
So they're valuable. You can jump off of love languages into currencies of appreciation. But to give you an example.
Yeah, I want to know more about the currencies.
Okay, well, let me give you an example that also shows why it's so important to find out about. So public acknowledgement, public appreciation. You did a great job. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
About of my informal surveys, about a third of the people will raise their hand saying that really does it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And more than that, like half of people, so there's people who don't raise their hand at all, half of people will raise their hand that to them, they would rather nothing was done than that public appreciation is actually a negative to them.
Okay.
So people who love to be publicly appreciated provide a lot of public appreciation, and they may not know that they are mortifying people. Another appreciation currency is accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So to be offered a bigger accountability can be a currency of appreciation, like, wow, you really get who I am. You get what I'm capable of. You see me. You value me, because that's what appreciation means, to value. Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You could have somebody whose reaction to being offered a bigger so-called opportunity is, seriously, I haven't done enough for you yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, can you see?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so, for one person, just like touching them. So for so many men, being touched is a language of appreciation.
Yes.
To touch their hand,
Mm-hmm.
to touch their shoulder. They get touched so little. But there are people that touching them that's not appreciation, that's offensive.
Mm.
So this is why it's really important to find out. For some people, helping me is appreciation. To others, helping me is insulting, that you think I need help.
Mm.
So we have a teleclass on our site called the Appreciation Equation.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes through all the ways that people's behavior is predictable based on their experience of appreciation. I mean, you actually can predict when people will go an extra mile or steal from you. It's really pretty amazing.
That's brilliant.
It's cool. It's hot stuff. And it emphasizes that you better figure out what occurs as appreciation to them, because you may think you're really appreciating people and they can't stand you. They're actively undermining you because of how unappreciated they feel. And I discovered this by someone who thinks they're really appreciative, but I knew their employees, and I knew their employees were actively bad-mouthing them and figuring out how to take the appreciation that they wanted, like literally take it home with them and stuff, and realize that they just weren't speaking the same currency. Wasn't being expressed the same way. And that's when I learned that it's really funny, but one of the currencies of appreciation is forgiveness.
How is that?
Well, like when a man blows it, they blow it with us, right? They hurt our feelings. They say the wrong thing.
Never.
Right? They show up late. They aren't dressed right. They don't tell us we look pretty in our dress. Like there's all these things that they should have done that they don't do. And when we forgive them, we're like, honey, it's okay. Look at everything you already provide. That shows appreciation. Like you have so many points in the bank from all you provide. Of course, I'm going to forgive that. And that has them feel appreciated. And when we won't forgive them, they're like, why do I bother doing everything I do for you? If I don't get any credit for it when I'm in trouble, I don't get a get out of jail free card.
Oh, lovely. I like it.
Exactly.
I just started playing Monopoly. I get that. I get that reference.
Yes. I mean, if you wanted to do something huge, like actually make one and say, I so appreciate what you provided for me, what you did for me last week. Here,
Oh my God. I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, yeah, I have to make one.
So anytime that I am mad at you, you can play that card and I will take responsibility for getting over
That
it.
is
Getting
brilliant. I love that.
Yeah, so I could spend hours just on appreciation. It's one of the most important things to be engaged in, most important things to provide, the most important things to ask for. We get just resentful when we haven't been appreciated the way we want, but we don't ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to ask for it because, we think it's obvious that they should appreciate that we did that. And at our house, we have this thing called a credit tour, where when I need appreciation for something, I ask Greg, tell me what's a good time for a credit tour. And I'll literally walk him around and point out the things I need to be appreciated for. And he appreciates me. And then I'm all filled up again.
Nice. Very good.
So, yeah, big deal.
What makes a woman attractive to a man?
Oh, well,
I love this topic.
It's a great topic. That's a great question. Well, one is how much she appreciates him. But one of my favorite answers that I laughed off at the time, and it wasn't really till a long time later that I understood what he was saying. It was a panel of men, and the question was, what qualities in a woman do you find attractive? And this one man was really candid, and he had this little grin on his face, and he said, her finding me attractive.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard it pretty cynically at the time. And then I started learning more about it and found out how as women, we're so worried about being attractive to men. We don't know how much they're dying to be attractive to us. Mm-hmm. Like when I talk to men about sexually objectifying women, mm-hmm. the most common response is, I'd like to be sexually objectified.
Oh, wow.
Like, you can objectify me. And they have the opposite response. Like, you could just want me for my body. You could just tell me I'm a hottie. It's so cute. And they so want to be desirable to us. And this showed up early on, like we're talking 25 years ago when my husband and I started dating. We were in a class together and I needed something on the other side of him. So I reached over, and as I reached over, I balanced by grabbing his butt, his arm, his upper arm.
His butt?
His upper arm. Is that?
I know, I'm joking.
It was his arm. So I reached over. I grabbed his arm as I reached over, and his arm was like solid rock.
Ooh.
And I didn't know that about him. This was new. And I went, wow. and he looked down at me with this little smile. And he said, everything I have ever done with that arm in my entire life was so that you would react like that.
Oh my God. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. So as women, we want the wow, right? We're always like looking for the wow. And we teach men, your wow's worth 100 points. If she doesn't get your wow, she's got to go collect 100 points, 2 points at a time. It's really hard work. Don't make, and you'll be really mad. Why are you flirting with everybody? She's just trying to collect the wow you didn't give her. We teach this in our Understanding Women course. But we don't know how much men need wow. They need wow from us as much as we need it from them. And they need us to think they're hot and handsome and attractive. And one of my best friends, her husband calls on the phone and she says, hi, sexy. Mm. That's how she always answers the phone. Hi, sexy. Hi, sexy. Hi, sexy. And you know what? He just lives into that. He's just the sexiest man anybody knows.
Oh, beautiful. So I only say it if, on and off, but I'm going to say it more.
Oh, yes.
No, I mean, when I answer the phone, I say it enough. I say it a lot.
Ah, very good. Good for you. Yeah, you could ask Stefan, would you get tired of me answering
No.
hi sexy?
No. No.
Would you get tired of someone answering the phone, hi beautiful? It's
Right. Mm-hmm.
no, that was on my list before I met Greg. I wanted a man who thought I was beautiful and told me so often.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I called him after our first date, he said, hi, beautiful. And I thought, okay, that'll work.
That's beautiful. So you're going to be our special Valentine's Day episode, and I'm so honored. And what happened in my life in the last week is that I posted an online challenge, Awaken Your Inner Goddess challenge, helping women connect to more self-love. So for 7 days, I'm sending them little assignments, and in 15 minutes a day, they're going to love themselves more. And I'm doing it. I'm like helping, guiding them, standing on the shoulders of giants like yourself. And I wanted to know, for our community, I mean, we got almost 350 women doing the challenge in just a few days. And we have this amazing Facebook group, and they're all talking, and they're sharing from the heart, and they're sharing intimate stories, and they connect with each other, and they're from all over the world. I'm so excited about this. It's just amazing. Super grateful. What will be your advice for them on what to do to heal themselves, and then what to do on Valentine's Day?
Okay. Well, as you know, so much of our curriculum is teaching women to honor themselves. That's the foundation of the Queen's Code, is honor yourself first and then others, because our instincts to please have us honor others and lose ourselves in the process. And this is going to sound super unromantic, but it is amazing in the results that it creates. And it has to do with something that's not well known, is that the things that we've done in our lives that we're ashamed of, which is one of the worst feelings people can feel. It's one of the most intense feelings that men feel, by the way. When we're ashamed, it's an indication that we have dishonored ourselves. We've dishonored our own values, our own principles. And it causes a separation from really with our own spirit. And some people never get over that. But we found out it's not hard to get over. It's actually a path back to yourself. Is if you look at anything in your life that you feel ashamed of, or you're afraid you really disappointed somebody, which may mean you really disappointed yourself, and that what there is to do is to own that.
Okay.
To just go, yeah, I was really snarky to that person, and I pride myself on being generous, and I was so snarky and stingy, and I own that. Or, I was mean, and I own that. I was bitter and vengeful, and I'm not proud of myself for that, and I own that. So whatever it is, wherever you weren't the person that you most love yourself when you're that way, just own having not been that way. And it's without justification. That's the important part. Anything you justify, you're not owning. Just own it. Yeah, I failed. I failed. I came up short. I dishonored myself. I was mean to that person. I harmed someone else. I own that. I own that. I own that. And just the owning of it is like you're grabbing a hold of yourself again. And I am the person that feels bad about that, because only honorable people feel bad when they're dishonorable. And then to forgive yourself. Just forgive yourself. Because when you forgive yourself, then you're going to take chances again. Then you're going to risk. And until you forgive yourself, what's natural for people is to avoid all those things. Avoid love, avoid relationship, avoid being in business, avoid interacting with their parents, or people just avoid the places where they're ashamed. And if you forgive yourself, then what opens up is just, it's like life is asking you to commit yourself again. Come play, come back. We need you. And it's extraordinarily beautiful and empowering. And I first learned about this years and years ago when someone asked my daughter, and she was only 15 at the time. And they asked her, they said, "What is it about you? Why are you so pure?" And she said, "I forgive myself."
Oh, wow.
I forgive myself all the time.
Wow.
Yes. And people just thought she was so pure because like she'd never done anything bad. Like, no, I just keep forgiving myself. And that's why I set it up. But this is going to sound strange. This does not sound like a way to love yourself, to own what you're ashamed of. But it is one of the most loving, restorative things a human being could do. And we provide opportunities for it in several of our courses. And we have an exercise in our course for men. The course is called A Hero's Challenge. And we have an exercise in self-forgiveness and owning what they're ashamed of, because women have no idea how much men hold themselves accountable for. And we call it the forest process, because in this exercise, it's like watching trees grow. The men literally get taller.
Wow.
We started out this workshop in December with these two men who are 6'4". By the end of the forest process, they weren't towering over the other men anymore.
What do you mean?
The other men were standing up.
Oh, the other men were. Oh, wow.
Yeah, like the other men grew so much taller by forgiving themselves, by owning and reuniting with their own spirit, that there was just now this whole room of tall men.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my assignments for them, they don't know it yet, or if they're listening, well, if they're listening by now, they've done it. One of one of the assignments is forgiveness, but I never had that distinction between forgiving myself and owning myself. Like I forgive myself for things that I've done, but I'm still struggling with owning some of those things. So when you say owning, is that privately? Is that publicly? And how do we get to owning ourselves?
Yeah, I can tell you that. And then your question about on Valentine's Day, I have that like
that was that too.
Okay, good. So you can do it just like in your own head. You can just think about it and just think to yourself, I own that. I own that. Anything else about that? Yeah, I own that. And I own that I did it there. And I own that I did it there. You can do it in writing. In our Queen's Code workshop, we actually have a handout for women to own the ways that they have diminished men. So they just make a list. You know, I harmed this man when I did this, and this man when I did this, and this man when I did that. And you can just write it out. And then they actually write out, I own that. You can do it with another person. You can say, could you just listen to me as an honorable person owning what I'm ashamed of? And you may have to give them a minute to go, okay, yeah. And say, so I'm just going to own what I've done, and I'm not going to justify it in any way. I'm not going to say any other side of the story or what provoked me, my good reason for doing it. I'm just going to own that I did it. So please don't try to make me feel better or tell me that it's not my fault, because that doesn't help. Which, by the way, Orion, is what women do with men all the time. When men are trying to own what they're ashamed of, women feel the pain of the shame and they can't stand the pain that they feel the man is in. And they try to talk him out of it. Like, that wasn't really your fault. And it's the equivalent of saying to a man, you're actually not that powerful. You're too weak to be accountable for that. That couldn't possibly have been your fault. You're not strong enough for that to have been your responsibility. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough for that to be your fault. And it's horrible for them. It's horrible for men. Like, no, that's not your fault. You shouldn't feel bad about that. Well, think about what you're really saying. You're powerless. you didn't really do that.
Mm-hmm.
It was an accident. No, I did that. Let me own it. So you can do it in writing. You can do it out loud. You can pray. If that's what you do, you can do it in a conversation with spirit, God,
Beautiful.
however you word that. This morning, I just sent an email to someone and told them I was ashamed of something. And they'll respond however they respond. They may accept it. They may think, oh, no, it was not a problem at all. Like, no, you were fine. But I had to own that I was ashamed of not doing something that I think was the right thing to do. And it was in their world, it might be a really small thing. Most people would think it's something that I shouldn't even try to be responsible for. But as soon as I sent it, I was more me again. I could love me more. So does that answer that question?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And then the other side, I don't know if you know my aversion to Valentine's Day.
I don't.
So, yeah, it has a really disempowering history and a false beginning. And I hate false beginnings that are exploited. Many years ago, when I found out that Valentine's Day was most men's least favorite holiday, like most hated holiday, I went and did a bunch of research on St. Valentine. Like, who is this guy anyway? And then that's when I found out all the stuff going on with it, which I'll spare you unless you want to know. Mm-hmm. Now, my point is that to me, it goes back to where we started our conversation today, which is it creates a whole lot of expectations.
Correct.
And and things that people should do, especially men, what men should do if you really loved me, what you should do if you really cared about me. And I've talked to men, I did this just a couple of weeks ago too. There are men who, as they approach their first Valentine's Day with a woman that they could see spending the rest of their life with, they figure out how to do enough for Valentine's Day for it to pass, but not so much that when they have to outdo themselves year after year after year, they know that Valentine's Day is a set of expectations that breeds more expectations, which is one of the characteristics of expectations. They just breed more. They're like little bunny rabbits, And so when a guy does something great for your birthday, right, or your anniversary or Valentine's Day, the next year he's supposed to outdo himself. And so I know men who, they approach it very cautiously if they think, I could have a lifetime of Valentine's Days with this woman, so I better start out small. And talk about backfire, right?
Those nasty bunny rabbits.
Yeah. And so for me, what I try to do on Valentine's Day is express love and appreciation instead of go looking for signs of love and appreciation.
Perfect.
Yeah. And my husband is totally off the hook for Valentine's Day. There's nothing he has to do. And if he gives me a card where he writes something personal in it, for me, that's the day. If you're going to appreciate me for being your lover, your girlfriend and your lover, not your wife, your partner, your best friend, the mother of your children. Just appreciate the sexy romantic part of me. Right. And chocolate is a bonus. And, so I keep it very simple and have from the very beginning, just let him off the hook. This is a sucker holiday. Please don't waste your time on it. I'd rather you loved me every day a little bit than that day. But tying into what you and I are talking about, Orion, is how amazing could it be on Valentine's Day to call or write to the people who bring out the best in you, right? So what are the qualities you love about yourself, and who are the people who bring that out in you? And thank them for that. They give you part of your best self when you're with them.
Wow.
That would be a hot Valentine's Day. If that was the real tradition, I'd get on board really fast.
Yeah, I totally agree with the idea that whatever you want more of in your life, give more. If you want more respect, give more respect. If you want more love, give more love. That's the way it works.
Yeah, it works. My grandpa would say what goes around comes around. And it's also true that what you appreciate grows, and what you admire grows. And I have friends. I used to struggle about money a lot, just like most people, you know, a lot of imprinting from my childhood and baloney and stuff. And I finally figured out that money is like a man.
Okay, that is very interesting.
Yeah, and so if you wait for him to do something to appreciate it, that's like looking for fire without putting wood in the fireplace. And money's like a man in that it wants to feel attractive and desired, and you got to flirt with it. You got to wink at it. You got to pay attention to it. You got to be impressed. You know, you can't look at something and go, $10? You get, woo, $10. And then money goes, well, if $10 impressed you, how about 100? Well, if that lit you up, let me do better. And that's how men are. They're so generous, and they love to impress us. And too many women are like, I'm not going to be impressed until you do something Superman. I'm not going to be impressed by you taking out the trash. And so that's how they end up taking out their own trash. And it's not their fault. Women they don't know what they don't know about how this works. They think they're dealing with hairy women who are driven by pleasing and avoiding displeasing. And when a man is driven that way, when he's driven to please and avoid displeasing,
gets resentful.
Well, he's resentful, he's emasculated, and we don't want him anymore. He feels weak to us, and that's scary. We feel safe when our men are strong. But we tend to weaken them, but we still want them to be strong. It's a catch-22.
So on the group, there are a lot of stories of heartbreak and betrayal. What's your best advice on healing that, on trusting again, on finding that faith again, the faith in love?
Oh boy. Okay, that's like you asking me my most astonishing thing I learned about men.
Of course, I mean, your work is humongous, and we can spend probably about 5 years nonstop just talking about it. But just a little bit, you know.
Yeah, we could, especially since it's growing with every conversation.
5,000 years.
Yeah, it would just go on and on. Thank you for knowing that. I feel seen. Well, there's a couple things, okay? So you brought up partnership before, and that the first part of partnership is part. And one of the ways to regain trust is to kind of disassemble what happened and look for your part. And one of the things we discovered early on is that since women expect men to act like women, when a man doesn't act like a woman, she thinks she can't trust him. And she can't. She can't trust him to act like a woman, but she thinks she should be able to trust him to act like a woman. So when he doesn't act like a woman, he's broken her trust. Well, maybe her trust was falsely assumed. So anywhere that you think you've been betrayed, look and see, okay, so this way that I think this person betrayed me, did I ever ask them for that? Did I ever ask them for the thing they didn't do? Did I ever talk to them about it? Did we ever have an agreement about it? Was that ever promised to me? One of the problems for women is that estrogen has our brain sort for commitments. Our brains literally search for and grab onto commitments. And so much so that we hear commitments where they weren't made.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Good for you. Yeah, so a man says, I want you to meet my mother. She assumes, okay, so now he's going to change his status on Facebook. We're in a relationship. But she didn't say, does that mean we're in a relationship? She doesn't say that. She just assumes it and then she's betrayed.
They're very literal, like you said, Allison.
They are. He just means I want you to meet my mother. And he doesn't know in a woman's world how much meaning is attached to that. And we talk about that in Sync with Opposite Sex. But it's just, if you go looking for where did they actually promise something and not fulfill on it? And that they're willing to be held accountable for. If you tried to hold them to account for something that they didn't commit to them it would be a lie to say that they did something wrong. It would be dishonorable to cave to that pressure. And so they won't take accountability for not fulfilling an expectation that they never agreed to, which is one of the things that has women think that men won't be accountable. They don't realize they won't be accountable for our expectations that weren't a conversation. So that's one of the ways that women can recover themselves is go looking for where's my sense of betrayal and distrust because of what I expected and assumed and projected, and there wasn't an actual agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds really
simple.
Well, I mean, it sounds kind of mean and unromantic, like I should have sympathy. But I also know the same thing happens for men. Like men are stunned when their wives cut them off from sex, which happens all the time. Sexless marriages are more common than healthy sex lives.
Yes.
And they're stunned because to them, it was obvious in the wedding vows. Yeah, I'm going to be faithful to you because you're going to feed me regularly.
Yeah, it's like food.
It's totally like food. So I'm just going to eat in your restaurant and your restaurant's going to be open when I'm hungry. Isn't that the deal? But they never talked about it. They never lined it out. I promise to have sex with you every 72 hours. It was never talked about. And the men feel terribly betrayed. But they don't know that the woman didn't think she was signing up for that. She thought that this is the 21st century and she was signing up for having sex when she wanted to. Isn't that her right to only have sex when she wants to? And so she doesn't see any wrongdoing and that she doesn't want to anymore. So we're not going to do it anymore. But of course, you're not going to have sex with anybody else.
And then the man is starving and then he goes somewhere else.
He does. He does. And you know what? He's ashamed of it. He's ashamed of having done that. But I mean, it's what I have been saying for over 20 years. Do not create a conflict between a man's needs and a man's integrity. That is mean. Do not create that conflict for him. It's cruel. And I know a man who went without sex for 30 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he called it the drought. In his life, it's the drought. He's in his 70s now.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
wow.
And he finally cried uncle. After 30 years, he said, I can't do it anymore. And he wouldn't be unfaithful to his wife, so he got a divorce. That was the honorable thing to do.
Yeah, that is.
Not in her mind. I mean, he's just a beast.
Yeah. Wow, Allison, I want to speak with you so much longer, but we are almost at the end of the hour. Before we end, what are your 3 quick tips to living a stellar life, and where can people find you?
Let's see. Quick tips. These would be my quick tips of the moment when I'm working on.
I mean, they can be long. It's just I want to respect your time.
I would say figure out what your short list is. What are the things that you truly, truly need? Because when you get them, you become your best self. And when you don't get them, you become your worst self. Those are the big cost and a big payoff. Those are the things you truly need. Figure out what your short list is for every person you care about. And then take your list to them and ask them, will you provide this for me? And what do you need from me to provide this for me? Because this is my short list and I will expect nothing more of you but this that you're going to agree to provide now. That would change everything. Figure out your short list, write down your short list, be able to describe what your short list looks like when it's met, and then take it to your partners and see if their short list of what they're able to provide for you, they're willing to have be your short list of what you most need.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Queen Goddess Allison. Where can people find you?
Understandmen.com.
Yay! And AlisonArmstrong.com.
Thank you. That'll work as well.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for joining me on my mission to light people up and change lives around the world. I hope today's conversation inspires you to step up, go after the life of your dreams, and be who you want to be. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go to stellarlifepodcast.com for show notes, transcripts, and other cool stuff. And please subscribe, review, and help spread the word by sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Have a lovely day, and I'll catch you on the next episode.